So, Dallin Graff and an airman named Wissire, both of whom I knew in high school by their non-aliases, partially via the robotics club, because they're kind of part of a nerdier crew. But, they put on these aliases and they carry themselves as, such and such individuals. They both hail from the same religious community, and so they carry the same political background and political interests. And it turns out these people that I used to love, these people that I used to appreciate, these people whose music I used to very much care for, they in turn figured me to be a convenient idiot, I suppose you could say. It's probably the best way to put it. They thought I was going to be their convenient idiot, and they set me up for failure, and they set me up for robbery, and they did that via companies like Clearlink. Dallin Graff was the sales manager there. Before he was replaced by Anthony Renteria, who immediately fired me at his soonest opportunity. A very Jewish-dominant business operation, and they frequently tried to use that as some sort of, way to play a race card, you could say. Like, I was constantly inundated with, oh yes, I'm Jewish and I'm black, or why would you say Jew? Do you mean that insultingly? Without the latter part of the question. They just assume that if you say Jew instead of Jewish, you're being racist or something. And so I dealt with a lot of that over in Clearlink. Back in the robotics days, back in the McClintock days, everything was amiable, everything was fun, everything was a good time. In the Air Force, I thought those folks were going to be good. I thought they were going to be decent to me. Even Dallin tried to keep a somewhat false sense of friendliness and politeness as he interacted with me. But that quickly went away, of course, as soon as his operation for using me as his vessel of embezzlement, as using me as his convenient idiot that he would be able to rob later on down the line, as long as he set me up for failure, which he very much did. He put me on teams with, I requested to be on a different team, but I was instead put on a team of a special needs individual named Justin Main, very much a Michael Scott situation. So much so that there was even a joke about it, and Jordan Belfort had a Scranton, Pennsylvania, Dunder Mifflin newspaper article hung up in his office, as to keep that joke going. And it's like, I didn't want to end up being a Stanley on a Michael Scott team. I just wanted to have a normal job and live a normal life. But they continued to set me up for failure. Of course, I went to a school where working with folks like that is the norm, and so I did just fine. And I just kept my relationships friendly and minimally involved, so that my job would not be on the line the way they set me up for it to be. But they got rid of me anyways. As soon as they got caught wind of the fact that they were set up for they set me up for sexual assault by sending me home with bugged technology to spy on me. As soon as they got caught for all of that kind of stuff, as soon as they got caught, Anthony Renteria specifically got caught taking a bribe to fire me so that he could get a special contract with the Secret Service and processing Yankee white security clearances. As soon as they knew that I caught wind of all that stuff, they started to burn me in as many ways as they could, because I was inconvenient to their plan, and I was no longer their sacrificial lamb. And the same goes for Airman Wissire, who also goes by Jake Murdich, who went to McClintock High School with me. As soon as I became inconvenient to his little plan, He did everything he could to sacrifice me, basically, and burn me for, daring to stand up for myself, or daring to not want to be, set on fire for wanting to be myself. And so, I dealt with all of these things, and I'm taking them in stride. A lot of my thoughts are being processed by them as some sort of final opinion of my emotions towards what they've done and what they continue to do to me. But to be honest, it's a mixed bag, right? I mean, you grow up with some intellectuals around them, and you appreciate them, or somebody that was more friendly in the workplace than the rest, you appreciate them. But when it turns out that was just their covert way of putting on a mask and playing you so that they could rob you, obviously my appreciation for them goes away. Obviously, how much I care for their music goes away. And so, for me to be put in a position where people paint me as buddies with the people that robbed me, no, that's not the case. It's just that emotions towards how somebody treated you and your emotions towards who they could be otherwise can vary. It doesn't need to be a very autistic binary, I love you or I hate you. The world doesn't need to be that way, and it isn't that way. I might appreciate their characteristics. I might look back fondly on their music, look back fondly on some times we spent together. But, what good is all of that if these people are so toxic to your mental health, so toxic to your well-being, and literally infringing on your freedoms and trying to enslave you effectively by trying to force a conservatorship, by trying to force marriages? What good is all of that if what good is all the good things that you can put on under the nice column if the things under the naughty column destroy your life? And so, and that's what that's what basically makes me able to sum them up as more toxic than pleasant, as more detrimental to my life than any of the good times that might have been had in the few nuanced situations of a former, what could have been, a friendship, or what could have been a relationship, or what could have been, us being on a robotics team or whatever. And so, it's important that I mention these things because people are looking at me and saying, well, you're worshiping the very people that are causing your downfall. It's like, no, I have a really good memory, and I can really swim in my thoughts, and I can really navigate my emotions with nuance. I can consider, hey, these people did me good this one time, and it's a shame that at the end of it all, when push came to shove, they decided that, setting me on fire to keep them warm is what they wanted to do. And so I decided to move on, and it's important that everybody knows that I decided to move on, and times change, things change, discussions can be had, but for now, I'm deciding to not care much for folks that did everything they could to ruin my life. I don't care if you're the president's son. I don't care if you're an associate of the former president's cabinet or the current cabinet. There's just not a whole lot of good that comes from what these folks decided to do to my life for many, many years. And that includes retarded kids like James Williams. I used to babysit him. I used to take care of him. I used to tell him, hey, you should take a shower before you go outside. Hey, the reason your computer chair smells like poop is because you have poop on your ass that got transferred to the chair. Hey, you shouldn't resort to threatening suicide or pretending that you're transgender and wanting to date me just because you don't get any pussy. All of these things I have to convey to these individuals, to this individual James, who, like the other folks, inserted himself into my life because he was like, oh, I used to know you a long time ago. It's like, yeah, but do we know each other anymore? And is the overall Is the overall point of your relationship positive at all? James Williams, a humongous piece of shit. He showed up to my local. He doesn't open carry ever, right? But all of a sudden, he started open carrying and threatening me if I didn't submit to him and let him put me under a conservatorship. If I didn't let him get paid money out of a trust that my mother made to spy on me and try to also be involved in this scheme by abusing that trust. And so he's just a piece of shit that tries to masquerade as part of the gay community now because he wants protection from the very shitty things that he's done to me and the very shitty things that he continues to do. And so what he's done recently is he started acting as transgender. He started acting as a student in my class and tried to join my group. He started acting as a neighbor of mine. He moved in a door down, and started putting on a whole act. Started moving his computer in. Started, trying to bump into me on purpose. And so, he's been very abusive. And this is a person that's threatened my life several times. This is a person that has been suicidal and has made unsuccessful suicide attempts, unfortunately. And so, when a mentally unstable person like that waltzes into your life and says, well, hey, I used to know Jake too. It's like, I don't care. Both of you guys have been very shitty to me. Everybody from Clearlink has been very shitty to me. Everybody that I used to live with who was associated with the intelligence community has been very shitty to me. And the reason is because all they saw was money at the end of the tunnel as long as they were able to ruin my life. And that's just unacceptable to me, and it's important that I mention, current events. It's important that I mention specific individuals. One of these guys from the robotics club, I don't even know his name, the Dallin Graff looking fella. He, has a history of working at the Fry's, on McClintock and Southern, and on Rural and Southern, I should say. And he has a history of working in the robotics club, and that's kind of the extent of our relationship. And so if the guy was to put on a mask and suddenly be part of this intelligence community recruiting organization operation, unbeknownst to me, he doesn't get to wear a mask one day and call himself this name, and then the next day try to hold it against me that I appreciate his former ego, his former persona. He all of a sudden has this completely different persona that he wears a mask to go along with it. And I'm supposed to cave into that and fall victim to it and somehow give him another chance because, his former persona was half decent. And it's just like, that's not how that works. You tried to ruin my life. What's safer for me is just not to interact with you at all. What's safer for me is to not interact with associates of yours like James Williams, a retarded kid that moved in next door to me at my dorms, literally has been stalking me for quite a while. Something I've reported to the police, something I've had to report to state mental health authorities because he has committed suicide before. And all of a sudden he was doing this suicide by cop scheme where he would point his firearm at me and stalk me around. And, he thinks I care for him or his life or his future because he feels like my life success or any benefits that I receive in life are automatically his, because we used to have what I would tell him was a close relationship, but what in reality was me, visiting him and babysitting him and taking him out to town when he hasn't left the house in a while, because he was one of those shut-in computer gamer type personalities. And so, I do my best to be good to these folks. I do my best to be not extreme with my emotions, despite there being justification for it. People can snap and commit murders and it would be justified for a lot of the things that these folks have done to me, but I keep my emotions level and I just keep pushing forward, and I move past really shitty individuals. I don't make their actions towards me influential to my entire destiny. I just take what good of it that I can and move forward. And so when I'm taking what good of that I can from these relationships, in my thoughts even, people will approach it as though I have a deep-seated appreciation and a forever love and forgiveness no matter what towards these folks. But what you got to remember is these folks effectively tried to enslave me, right? They punished me with as much damages as they could over as long of a period as they could to pile up some damages compensation, and then they tried to reap that damages compensation from me via very abusive means, such as removing my access to food, water, shelter, income, even education, so that they could get rid me of my scholarship. They tried all of those things, and at the end of it all, their retort to me taking issue with what they've done to me, their response with me taking issue to the things they do to me is, well, hey, we can all be friends at the end of the day, and we put you on, we got you all of this money. It's like, you got me all of this money via damages, right? It's damages compensation. You did so many damages that it's worth a shit ton of money, which you feel entitled to. And so, I imagine there could be ways where, somebody could sneakily get away with doing something abusive like that. But the truth of the matter is, these folks have not been getting away with those abusive types of efforts because they're just gigantic pieces of shit, and some things don't go forgiven, and it's not like they let me in on this scheme of theirs so that I could be buddy with them and hook them up at the end, and we all take a piece, and it was all some sort of scheme that we cooked up together. No, these people were straight up abusing me and trying to traffic me. And so to that end, I don't care for these folks. I don't appreciate them, and I do not want them in my life. And I think the world deserves to know what all I've been through and how all it's completely unforgivable. And, whether it be a low-functioning autistic like James Williams, who shits his own pants while he's, playing computer games all day on his computer, whether it be, a nerd like Jake Murdich, who, calls on an old friend to try to fuck that old friend over, whether it be an individual like Dallin Graff, who puts on a disguise and conducts himself with an alter ego to screw over some fella from way back in the day. I don't think these are redeemable qualities in folks that you might weigh in on calling friends ever. I think those are very shitty qualities. I think those are very shitty people, and I think it's very justified of me to just straight up move past it. And so, James Williams, you don't get to use this excuse that you're transgender all of a sudden and you want to marry me. I think we both know that that's a load of shit. I think you're completely full of it. And I think you're going to attempt to weaponize the fact that I know you're full of it, and that's not who you are. Because me and your parents would meet up and talk to each other about who you really are. They would convey information to me about who you really are. We would read some of the shit that you would post on your Reddit, whether it be you being suicidal or you being an alcoholic, etc., etc., and all of your addiction problems, including your addiction to weed. All of these things are, including your sexuality, what girl you're talking to, what girl you're attempting to even try to talk to, what kind of dates went sideways, and what almost dates went sideways. I think a lot of these things that me and your parents would discuss about you, would meet up and talk to each other about, that we know about you, can't be held, can't be suddenly twisted because you think I'm in the dark on this information. I used to come over and, play games with you a little bit, and when you would go to the bathroom, you know what I would do? I would clean up your depression mess in your room. I'd put all the trash inside of the ginormous 50-gallon trash bin that was inside your room. I would, help take off sheets off of your bed that smelled like an obese person's body odor. Not pleasant, all of these things that I would do to try to help you, only for you to resurface back in my life to try to rob me, to try to pretend you're some sort of Nancy that is into dudes all of a sudden, which, is not to say that you can't be gay, not to say that you can't be bisexual, but for you to pretend you're trans because that's a convenient cover for your shitty identity of who you truly are and who you have been to me. I don't think that's going to fly with the gay community, the fact that you're trying to abuse that for pity, because the gay community does have a lot of overlap with mental health issues, and somebody like you with mental health issues that's trying to abuse your sexuality card into trying to pretend you're part of the LGBTQ community is a bit sad. I think the whole community should know what you're trying to do, that you're trying to abuse this false narrative of having an alternative sexuality because you want an excuse to not only have an in my life and not only have an in towards trying to pretend you can be in a relationship with me, but also towards conveying that if I dare out you, then you're gonna say that it's some sort of sexist narrative that I'm pushing because I'm a sexist individual. But I think that I kept secret your homosexuality for a very long time, for as long as you weren't trying to abuse it against me. I think and everybody that is very deeply involved with your life and knows a lot about you, I think those folks know that you're just putting it on, and I volunteered with a lot of parts of the different communities, especially disenfranchised folks, which oftentimes includes the gay community. And so I won't let you try to claim that I'm some sort of big meanie just because you weren't able to threaten me or blackmail me or assassinate my character in exchange for money. I'm just going to out you for what you're doing. The same way I outed you for coming to the local Safeway here in Flagstaff and open carrying and having really wide eyes and a grimace on your face to try to intimidate me, to try to have some sort of cowboy standoff, some sort of suicide by cop dream that you have. The same way I didn't play into that, the same way your parents didn't play into your prior suicide attempt, I'm not going to play into your assassination of character attempt or your assassination of your own identity attempt. I think you're really fucked in the head, dude, and you should really see a therapist. And I moved on. I joined the military. I left your town behind, and I moved on, and I have been trying to get towards bigger and better things, but you've been nothing but a detriment, and so I just can't have you in my life. I can't pretend I'm going to give a shit about you after my security clearance is finally adjudicated, after my little war game exercise is complete. I'm not going to pretend that I give a shit about you. And so I think you should know these things, James, if you're listening, which you probably are, because you literally stalked me and got a dorm room right next door to me, living with a piece of shit named Diego, who won't do anything about the bugs that crawl out of my fire alarm systems. And I kept evidence of that so they don't try to pull some sort of mental health card on me, which he has been trying to do. He's a really shitty guy. He's been stalking me too. And so it really makes sense that these two stalkers are living with each other right next door to me. And I think it's important that the world knows what's going on. And so, it's important to consider the nuance. While I might appreciate personality characteristics, potential for friendship, it's important to know that I also disavow enemies. And that's just the way the world works, and that's how self-preservation works.